Welcome back to The Big Picture. My guest is George Gast, who's with the Transit Police, and we want to talk about some of the things that you deal with Transit Police. You have an extensive canine program that's quite important with the work that you guys do.
We do, Phil. We have one of the largest canine programs in Western New York. We actually have 10 canine teams. We have 7 explosive detection canines, and those dogs are all owned by the U.S. Department of Homeland Security, and they're trained to federal standards. We then have one narcotics canine, strictly a narcotics sniffing dog, and then we have 2 narcotics patrol canines that are also trained to search and do patrol functions.
Now, are these mostly at the airport, or are they all around?
They're spread out through our entire department. Some are assigned to the airport, some are assigned to our metro division downtown. We do a lot of canine work with other departments if there's a bomb threat at a school or at a location. If you remember, a couple of weeks ago we had a number of bomb threats that all came out via email, and our canine teams were very busy that day assisting other departments.
Interesting. And you do well, as Transit Police, you do a lot of accident investigation, right? There was one with a bus just recently.
Just the other day, a bus ran into a house. We have a very active and very good accident investigation unit. You can imagine we have anywhere in excess of 300 buses a day out throughout the transit system, and there's going to be accidents. And our officers get out there and they do a very thorough investigation and determine the cause of the accident and go from there.
Well, the people that ride, how many people ride buses and light rail throughout Western New York in an average day? You have any idea?
I don't know specifically those figures, but it's millions every year.
And there's a lot of, is there much theft or crime involved with when people ride?
Well, like any place else, Phil, there's going to be crime. And you got people, there's going to be crime. One of our biggest problems, and I always like to tell people, is cell phone theft. Be smart about your cell phone. If you're sitting on a bus or sitting on a train, don't be holding your cell phone in your hand. Don't be playing music and holding it in your hand. We've had snatch and grabs and people run, or at the bus terminal, they'll plug their cell phone in and recharge it and they'll walk away. Well, they walk away, their phone walks away. So be careful. A lot of petty theft, petty larceny, some disorderly conduct, but I will say this, our solve rate with our detective division is about 84 to 85%.
That's pretty good.
So we're doing real well at solving these crimes and then consequently prosecuting those involved.
I know someone who fell asleep on a light rail, not here, it was in Los Angeles, and when they woke up, their purse was gone. So
it happens on a regular basis.
Not a good thing to do. Yeah, you really should be aware of your surroundings at all times.
Absolutely. Situational awareness is huge.
Yeah, when you're in the city, when you're around, you need to be kind of alert. It's just kind of, that's a thing to do. It's an education.
Absolutely.
Really, and it's something that you really need to be. I tell my sons that all the time when they go into the city, because they grew up in a rural area and they're not used to being in that environment.
Absolutely.
Well, what's the biggest challenge that you face every day? What's your biggest headache?
Probably individuals with mental illness. That's probably our #1 issue, and that goes almost hand in hand with the homeless problem.
It's a sensitive thing.
It's a very sensitive thing. It has to be approached in a very sympathetic manner. We work very well with the Western New York Coalition on Homelessness, particularly down at the bus terminal. The NFTA provides rides to individuals to get to the shelters when there's a code blue, and we're then reimbursed at the end of the year off of a grant. But the work with the Coalition for the Homeless is key. We also work with crisis services on a regular basis and actually have a crisis service a representative that spends time in the bus terminal on a regular basis to assist us with those types of individuals. But that's probably our biggest challenge on a day-to-day basis.
Well, we have a minute left. What, as chief, what takes up most of your time?
More administrative functions that I would like. I still view myself as a hands-on chief. I like getting out on the street. I like being out with my officers. I think I have a great department made up of great individuals. And every New Year's Eve for the ball drop, they're out there keeping the public safe and keeping the system safe. And I'm out there with them at midnight. And for the bus accident the other day, I was out there at the bus accident. So I still like getting out on the street, but more and more of my time is taken up with administrative functions.
I can identify with that. Okay, well, listen, you know, I want to give the people, the viewers, a message. You know, when you see those videos of police officers, and police officers tend to be a target of criticism, and I'd like to show you a video that I want you to remember. I want you to think about the next time you think about police officers and some of the questionable things that you see. Think about this video. If this doesn't touch you, I'm not sure what will. Let's go to that.
The hours late, should go to bed near midnight, I believe. But memories keep me wide awake this snowy Christmas Eve. Yes, memories of my kids moved on, each has their separate life, and how the holidays have changed since angels took my wife. The toys, the food, the Christmas cheer, my wife would bear the load, 'cause I work most holidays, state trooper on the road. Just sitting in my easy chair, so many years retired, I reminisce of times gone by and all that has transpired. Of all the many happenings that seem to come to light, a multitude of them occurred right on this very night. A drunken woman in a wreck who died on Christmas Eve leaves memories of a tragic case most people can't believe. I had to drive to where she lived to tell her next of kin. Found the rundown mobile home she had been living in. The person answering the door I still recall today, a little girl about 4 years old. She said, "I'm Sue McKay." I asked her if her dad was home and felt the longest pause. She said, "My daddy ran away. You must be Santa Claus. My mommy said you'd come tonight if I just stayed in bed and bring a pretty doll for me. It's what my mommy said." I broke the rules that Christmas Eve, did not call child's care. They'd merely put her in a room, and that I couldn't bear. I picked her up, took her home. My wife tucked her in bed, and wrapped a pretty doll for her, just like Mommy said. Adopted by a loving home, and soon they moved away. I won't forget that Christmas Eve and little Sue McKay. Another bitter Christmas Eve, a blizzard to behold, and had left a family in a ditch, just trapped there in the cold. By grace of God, I spotted them, all cold and gaunt with fright, drove them to a motel room to safely spend the night. One Christmas Eve, a homeless man, shivering and wet, was trying hard to get a ride I'm sure he'd never get. I picked him up and drove him to a diner on the hill to warm his bones, and left him with a $5 bill. Strange how when you're all alone, what memories you recall. Think of everything you've done, and was it worth it all? Think about my God, my job, my children, and my wife. Would I do it all the same? Could I relive my life? Then comes a knock upon my door. This late, who could it be? A neighbor, or has Santa Claus come to visit me? The figure standing in the cold gives me a sudden fright. A trooper with that solemn look. Dear God, who's died tonight? Flashing back to bygone years, how I'd often stood on someone's porch to bring them news, and it was never good. Is this how life gets back at me for misery I've induced? Where pain I've caused some other folks has now come home to roost. But looking in the trooper's eyes, my mind is in a whirl. I see a pleasant countenance. The trooper is a girl. She smiled and reached to shake my hand, and silence wasn't broke till a tear rolled down her cheek, and then she softly spoke. I'm sure you don't remember me, but thought I'd stop and say, God bless you on this Christmas Eve. I'm Trooper Sumikay.
Not a lot you could say after that. I know it's after the holidays, but I thought it was still worth showing. I'd like to thank all of you for watching The Big Picture. I want to thank George Gast for being my guest on the show. I want to leave you with one final thought. The next time you see some news guy or some Hollywood star type or other celebrity encouraging you to hate or condemn some police officer or any other popular target for that matter in today's politically correct world, consider these words. It is not the critic who counts, nor the man who points how the strong man stumbled, or where the doer of deeds could have done them better. The credit belongs to the man who is actually in the arena, who strives valiantly, who knows the great enthusiasms, the great devotions, and who spends himself in a worthy cause. Theodore Roosevelt, 1910.